Hey guys, this is Matt. This is Mental Model Monday number 13. And today I'm going to talk about a concept that I've just recently learned and started playing with, and I've gotten a lot of value from. So, the idea is called turning edges into nodes. And when I first heard this idea, I didn't really know what it was talking about. But if you take the idea of a concept map, which is a set of nodes or concepts, and they're connected with these arrows, which are the edges. So the nodes are these rectangles here, and then the arrows represent the edges, the relations between the concepts that you know. So as you're learning any new skill or new area or anything really, you're building up these concept maps. And the first thing that you will tend to do when you're learning is you will try to add new nodes to the outside of this concept map. So you know only one or two concepts, and you're just trying to add concepts and connect them to concepts you already know, and you're just trying to add nodes. That would be probably surface learning. When I'm going back to the stages of learning that I've talked about in my very first Mental Model Monday, that would be the very first stage. You're just doing the surface learning. Next, what you would typically try to do is add edges to the nodes that already exist. So you're finding new connections between the concepts that you already know, and this is deep learning. This is when I talk about application, elaboration, distinctiveness, and the other one that's flipping my mind right now. This is deep learning. This is taking things you already know about and you're connecting them. You're creating a denser network. You're figuring out all the connections that you already know and putting them together into something new. And this is also a very powerful thing to do, and a very powerful thing to do when you're learning. Now, the concept that I recently learned that I've been playing with and has been really helping me is the idea of what do you do after that? Now you have this really dense network, you have a lot of these nodes. How do you deepen your learning even further? How do you go even deeper in what you're learning? And the answer is that you turn some of these edges into their own nodes. And what that does is it makes finer and finer distinctions, and it also brings to light assumptions in your model that you're making. So oftentimes when you turn edges into nodes, you actually have a paradigm shift. You take something that was assumed, and you figure out how it's part of your map, and how if you change it, you can learn new things. So let me give you an example. And this was the example that I sort of worked through when I was first learning this concept. And trying to understand what it really meant, and it was in this chat, and so we were talking about this edges to nodes concept, and somebody said, let's give an example, and this is what we used. So the example knowledge graph or concept map that I'm going to use is pine is a tree. So that concept map looks like this: pine and tree are nodes, and then is an edge here. And that is actually doing a lot of work and hiding an assumption that that if this is your knowledge map or your concept map, you don't even realize that until you start using this turn edges into nodes concept. So the way that we would turn this into this edge into a node is figure out what is the assumption we're making that makes this true. So the question we're asking here is, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? So going back, so pine is a tree. What do I mean by is a? What I really mean, and I didn't know this until somebody who knew about trees said this in the discussion I was having, is that pine has woody secondary growth has woody secondary growth and therefore is classified as a tree. Oops, let's forget this guy. Therefore, it's classified as a tree. Classified as a tree. So what I just learned here in this new knowledge map is I've turned that edge into a node with two new edges. And by the way, you can also turn nodes into edges with two new nodes as well. So this works both ways. But what I've done is I've brought out an assumption here. So there's other things that have woody secondary growth, which are also classified as trees. But what I've learned is that there's other ways to classify a pine. So for instance, if I looked at the DNA, I might come up with a completely different classification system. But I would have never even thought to do that when I was still thinking pine is a tree versus pine has a secondary growth, has woody secondary growth, and is therefore classified as a tree. And I've been playing with this concept in a number of different ways. I still have some grasping to do, I think, of the full implications of this and how to create this into a tool that can be consistently used. But I would start playing around with this. Think about your concept maps. Even spend some time mapping them out. And then how can you turn edges into nodes with two more edges, or nodes into edges? How can you turn edges into nodes and nodes into edges? Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.